On my last tour, I started doing these outros as part of a song that these were lyrics that never made it to the end of the song. They were all like reject lyrics and lyrics that should honestly never be heard by the general public. And as a joke, I was like, well, Boston can handle it, you know? So like, let's just throw one in for Boston. And Boston handled it so well that I was like, what about Chicago? And then it kind of kept going. And I think I had this like limitless feeling when I started writing Short and Sweet.
2018's The Hate You Give was my introduction to Sabrina Carpenter. Only I did not know it was Sabrina Carpenter, nor did I care. She was great in the movie, of course. I gotta give her her flowers. But I didn't come away from the movie thinking about her performance or wondering what other projects she's working on. I can't speak for anyone but myself, but I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that most people, other than perhaps her core fans from her Disney days, didn't know that was Sabrina Carpenter either in that movie, nor did they care until perhaps 2021. Let me bring you up to speed in case you were like me and didn't know what was going on then, because I was in the middle of moving out of my apartment and quitting my job at Disney. In 2021, Olivia Rodrigo's song Driver's License was everywhere. It was a runaway hit about the emotional turmoil she experienced after a breakup, maybe her first breakup, I'm assuming, as she was 17 when she wrote the song. Fans theorized that the song was about her breakup with co-star Joshua Bassett and his new relationship with Sabrina Carpenter because of the lyrics, and you're probably with that blonde girl who always made me doubt. She's so much older than me. She's everything I'm insecure about. The following year, Sabrina released a song called Skin, which was speculated to be a response to Driver's License, and the rest is history. What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Yaira, better known as simply Yaya. I am proudly African from Cameroon, born and bred. I worked for Disney for the better half of my young adult life and more recently, Whole Foods. I am always working on leveling and glowing up, and I have a Master of Science in Journalism, which informs how I view and discuss some aspects of pop culture on this channel. I did mention at the beginning of the video that Sabrina Carpenter released Skin in response to Driver's License, allegedly. Even though Because I Liked a Boy sounds more like it could be a response to Driver's License. But what do I know? Also, she's playfully addressed it at one of her concerts. Though I'm not sure if she's referring to that song or Good Graces, which is playing in the background.
So, being vulnerable and singing from the heart doesn't always come without controversy. And even with this song, right, there are rumors that it is a response to a lyric in Olivia Rodrigo's song, Driver's License. Is that true? Is there any validity to that?
I mean, it's also just not my place to say. I think a lot of people were sort of pointing fingers. And so at the end of the day, like, I was dealing with what I was dealing with internally. And the only way I ever know how to deal with things is to write about it. I mean, like, I literally write about getting sued. So like, I don't know why it came such a shock to people, but it definitely, was something that, in this day and age and what everyone's going through in life right now, I've dealt with this experience over and over and over again of people trying to get to me and me allowing myself to let them get to me.
Anyway, Sabrina already had a huge discography at the time for a then 23-year-old and several roles under her belt. But that song and the album to follow, Emails I Can't Send, gave her a massive push into more visibility. And then opening for Taylor Swift during the Eras Tour and performing at Coachella last year prior to her 6th studio album release, basically launched Sabrina into the stratosphere. Enter Sabrina 2.0 with the signature retro style, big blonde hair, and shimmery blush. This was why she seemingly came out of nowhere to being everywhere, a 10-year overnight success, which there are several videos about, but this video isn't one of those. I'm just reviewing the album short and sweet after it won a Grammy for Best Vocal Album earlier this year, 2025. I just couldn't get to properly listening to it and reviewing it last year, and I wanted to do it justice. So without further ado, here we go, and I'll give it my best shot to keep it short.
And I'm Sabrina, and I'm very tall, and even taller when I take my shoes off.
And sweet, and spicy.
It's still there. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
At times, because the album is very much spicy with a funny twist. One cannot tell from the 3 lead singles, Espresso, Please Please Please, and Taste, but there's a heavy R&B influence from the 90s and early 2000s on this album. There's also a lot of folk, which is obvious, and of course that good old 80s synth pop. It's dynamic, a mix of everything Sabrina most likely listens to growing up. It's not a pop album per se, but the lyrics and vocals make it pop adjacent. I guess alternative pop is more appropriate to describe the album. She's referenced Beyonce's Lemonade as inspiration to experiment with different genres of music.
The one album that inspired me to really follow my gut in experimenting with genre and not limiting myself was Lemonade. Like, it really transcended every genre. She had kind of a little bit of everything in that album, and that really made me feel like I didn't have to just stay in a box from there on out. So thanks, Beyonce. I love you.
She knows.
I'll skip Espresso, Please Please Please, and Taste, as I already have videos from last year discussing these songs and music videos. I'll link them below if you're interested. So we'll start with Good Graces. The song has a lot going on, in a great way. It sounds like it could be an interpolation of My Boo by Ghost Town DJs, but the way she sings it reminds me of the verses of Aaliyah's Come Over.
I just touched down, 2:15. When I love you, I'm sweet like an angel.
And I couldn't help but think of Toni Braxton's Spanish guitar, for obvious reasons. Sharpest tool, mind games guys play. Love the showing, not telling. She didn't tell us the guy cheated, but rather described how he did. He found God at his ex's house. The phone is face down so that if the girl texts or calls, Sabrina won't see it. This is nice. I love a good indie song, but it should have been titled We Never Talk About It or We Don't Talk About It. You think she's seen Encanto? This was the song that made Sabrina the most emotional. Her words, not mine. She said this on the Apple Music podcast, and I can understand why this would be emotional because there was no resolution to whatever the situation was. No closure. Unpopular opinion, sometimes you don't need closure, but we don't realize it until much later that that situation was already dead on arrival. So no need for closure. You know, trying to make something work that was never supposed to work to begin with. It was forced. In this video from when I started my channel in 2018, I allude to one such situation. It should never have happened, and yet it took me 2 years to realize that. Anyway, I can't help but wonder if this song was about her fling with Shawn Mendes. I don't like sticking my nose in celebrities' private affairs. That's a surefire way of getting hit with a cease and desist these days. However, if it's part of their art, well, it's fair game to discuss. Next track. Coincidence. It's the holding space for her tongue in your mouth line for me. What can I say? The writing is witty and top tier. Bedcam reminds me of Into You by Tamia and Fabulous.
I go. They wear bikinis in the winter too now. What you think about tan lines on the skin of you now?
Your dress, the day that we met, we were both in a rush. We talked for a sec.
Initially, when she said the thermostat is set at 69, I'm like, that's really chilly. And then 5 seconds later, I'm like, oh, she's not talking about the temperature. She's talking about. The backstory of her inspiration for this song, as told on NPR's Tiny Desk concert, is actually quite wholesome, believe it or not. I'm not sure if I would get a copyright strike if I played it here, so I'll just tell you. She said she had to share a bed with her best friend in an Airbnb, and they both fell asleep at the same time and woke up at the same time, and there was no snoring or kicking or any of that. So she said to her friend that they had really good bed chem. And then she said she met a guy and started thinking of a different kind of bed chem with this guy. Dumb and Poetic is very Olivia Rodrigo and Avril Lavigne coded, and equally reminds me of the beginning of Ariana's Imperfect For You. Sabrina read that guy for filth. Honestly, dude sounds a lot like lots of people online these days, thinking they are gurus and giving advice just because they've read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a and Atomic Habits recently. Again, I will never knock anyone for reading and trying to be better, but giving unsolicited advice in the process in order to look down on others is what I have an issue with. This song has to be one of my favorites on the album. I love a good indie song. That should come as no surprise if you've been watching some of my other album reviews. I love a good indie song. I know I'm repeating myself, but that bears repeating. A lot of my pleasant memories from Florida are associated with indie music at Panera Bread and EDM at the outlets. Yes, I know, I'm always finding ways to talk about Florida in my videos because I miss it so much. Anyway, I had to go look up who Leonard Cohen is. I had no idea that he sang the famous Hallelujah that Pentatonix has done a rendition of, and the same Hallelujah that Rufus Wainwright did for the first Shrek. Slim Pickens. Her roasts are legendary. And yeah, if it's slim pickings for her, the pretty blonde, the standard in the West anyway, then the rest of us are cooked. The song is very Dolly, minus the vivid descriptions of her unfortunate experiences with this guy. She is so versatile. Love that she's finally gotten the recognition she deserves. I've checked out a few of her other songs from back in the day, and even then, she was a force to be reckoned with. But the marketing wasn't marketing. Some people may bring up the fact that she's a Nepo baby. Her aunt, Nancy Cartwright, voiced Bart Simpson, in case you're wondering. But she's a Nepo baby with undeniable talent, who didn't blow up overnight. Even with her connections, it took her 10 years to achieve the success we are now seeing. Juno. Gotta throw in some 80s synth pop. It really is trendy. All the pop girlies are doing it. Ariana, Chappell Roan, Selena, and now Sabrina. This was one of the songs Sabrina said she was excited to play live, and boy did she have lots of people talking about that performance. It's actually not that bad compared to some of her counterparts. Lie to Girls. I feel called out on this one. The cold hard facts were there with the one guy I liked, and yet I was lying to myself. I'll have that video out soon, except it'll be behind a paywall. It's called Florida Man Lies to Me, and a few others about being a surgeon. If you want to see that video, you'll have to join my membership at $4.99 a month right here on YouTube. Just click the join button right next to the subscribe button if you'd like to become a member. No pressure, of course, but I had to shamelessly plug my membership, and this was the perfect way to do it. Anyway, the song is very Olivia Rodrigo style. Not comparing both of them, just want to make that clear. They each have different styles, but the rapid delivery of the lyrics in the first verse of this song reminded me of Olivia. This feels like the sister song of Please Please Please. Don't smile. Don't smile because it happened, cry because it's over. I believe the saying is, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. I have another story about this very phrase. Don't worry, I won't make you pay $4.99 for it. This one doesn't concern me, so I'll tell it. At my recent job, this manager who was married was having an affair not with another fellow manager, who would be his equal, but with his subordinate within the same department, which is a big no-no because uneven power dynamics and just messy. Word got out that this was happening, so the subordinate quit and the manager got transferred to another store as if he can't do the same thing at the other store. But anyway, before he left, he made sure to write this very phrase on the whiteboard upstairs, reserved strictly for important announcements. So everyone saw that, and those who were privy to the backstory were clutching their pearls, myself included. He's ruined his marriage and his professional image, and yet there was no shame or outward remorse. Yes, I'm very much giving him the bombastic side eye. But back to the song. I never thought this would happen, but this was my least favorite song on the album. Perhaps because there was nothing cheeky on this one. Perhaps because this song was based on her friend's experience, not hers, as she mentions in the Apple Music podcast. So because the experience wasn't hers, she didn't want to go into too much detail as with the other songs out of respect for her friend, I'm assuming. I'm glad this was the last song on the album, and it's very fitting. I'm certainly not crying that my listening party of this album is over, and if I did cry, they would be tears of joy because this was so good. But the 5 additional tracks for the deluxe were even better. 15 Minutes is very groovy, like Feather. The Dolly Parton collab on Please 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 remix is classic. I knew Dolly wasn't gonna say any bad words. Couldn't make it harder. It's harder for her to give her heart away now than it was before when she was more of an optimist or the glass half full version of herself, as she puts it. It's both a blessing and a curse. When your heart is guarded, you don't get easily hurt, but that also means you're not letting yourself feel everything to the fullest. I can relate. Busy Woman sounds like she's describing lots of quote-unquote alpha males these days when they get rejected. Bad Reviews was a nice way to wrap up the deluxe. Sounds like the sister song to Lie to Girls. I cracked up so hard when she said, I can't lose another boy that's not even my boyfriend. I feel called out again. Single, millennials, and Gen Zs, we are in trouble. And we can thank the pandemic for that. The dating pool is, well, I'll let you fill in the blank in my comment section. Write down below how you feel about dating in 2025. She has range. Both Sabrina and the album, of course. A well-rounded selection of songs, no weird interludes, and it's not too long. The use of generic phrases in her lyrics are at a minimum if they are used at all. And it's conversational yet elegant and descriptive. And then having a potential face and name of the guy or guys she could be singing about makes the songs that much more juicy. That's that good old lore which have always made songs more interesting. I always wondered who Billie Jean or the Librarian Girl were when I was younger. That's a Michael Jackson reference for those of you who are too young, in which case you probably shouldn't be watching my channel. Brilliant work. Short and sweet, that is. And it doesn't end with the music. Sabrina's got merch to keep the party going and extend the life of this era. And so do I. I have merch on my website, which I'm still updating. I'll have it back up in a couple of weeks. And if you want to keep this music review party going, watch this video next, and I'll see you next week with a review of Jennie's album, Ruby. And after that, we'll do SZA, Miley, and Oofer Toofer. I hope I said that right. Shout out to them. Well, they requested that I review Chloe's Trouble in Paradise, which I had no idea Chloe released a second album, so I've put that down on my content calendar. I also have a few movie reviews coming as well, one of them being The Woman in the Yard. I love a good horror movie, which is why I thrive in October, which is also my birthday, but you don't care about that. Let me know in the comments if you have any requests or suggestions of albums you would like me to review as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yaya signing off.